Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Belle again. So today, we're going to talk about Trump and the GOP preparing an ACA menu. So, we've talked for quite a while, since before the shutdown, about how many Republicans actually want the Affordable Care Act extensions they shut down the government to stop. To be clear, since before the shutdown. Republicans have been working on this. They shut down the government over something they wanted, or at the bare minimum knew others in their party wanted, to the point that it was almost certain to pass. But they chose to damage the U.S. economy, the country's fiscal stability, and the U.S. worker, because they were told by Trump that they didn't need to negotiate. They've been talking about it in private for a while. Once Marjorie Taylor Greene started talking about the behind closed-door meetings in public, the cat was out of the bag. Now it's reached the point that they have a menu of options that are being leaked. Let's run through them. New income limits. Basically, Republicans want to have a cutoff point that says if you make more than X, you don't get the tax credit. Okay, this is something that might work as long as it's a sliding scale. One of the problems they need to look at is whether or not it's cost effective. Sometimes means testing costs more than it saves, and it might be the case here. If you make enough to be cut out of the tax credit, you probably have other health insurance already, so it may just be an additional cost, but there's nothing inherently wrong with capping the tax credit, as long as the cap is above all working class people. Minimum out-of-pockets. The idea is that Republicans believe a substantial amount of people are enrolled but don't know it because they don't pay for it. A lot of this is based on people who have coverage but don't use it. Republicans in power seem unable to comprehend that a lot of working class people don't use their coverage because they're too busy trying to scrape by in a system that only works for billionaire donors. Because of these people who don't use their coverage, Republicans want everybody to pay a little. Senator Dan Sullivan of Alaska said, quote, "It doesn't have to be big, but if you get a notice for a $5 premium, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, what?" This really seems like a way to hope people miss a small premium and throw them off their health insurance. Here's a wild idea. Send them a notification reminding them they have coverage every 6 months. By definition, you're talking about people who don't have a lot of money. Why risk destroying them financially if they have a medical emergency after forgetting to mail $5? Of course, there's also a push to restrict reproductive rights. Because why wouldn't there be, right? This is a non-starter on the Democratic side of the aisle. And as Republicans continue to cut funding for children, nobody actually believes they're pro-life anymore. It's just a gimmick. You don't cut food stamps for kids and pretend you care about human life. You don't cut food deliveries to children who are starving and get to pretend to be pro-life. You don't get to cut off education and assistance for special needs children and pretend to be pro-life. There might be individual Republicans who are pro-life, but the Republican Party as a whole is definitely not. Then, the other option on the Republican menu to eat away working class health care is only allow the tax credits for people currently receiving them. Apparently, Republicans don't understand that the problem is that it costs too much for health insurance. It is literally unaffordable. This is a system the Republican Party created when they went against single-payer health care. It's broke. Not extending the credits to people in the future is just kicking the working class in the teeth and saying you don't care about them. But even though most of these options are bad or non-starters, it shows that Republicans who have been working on this for months knew they were going to move forward on it and shut down the government, causing untold amounts of damage to American workers for no reason. Anyway, It's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.